Harry and Ron stood with their mouths open, but Hermione shrugged wearily and said, "Oh, sorry, we already read that part. Honestly, that was almost cheerful for Myrtle. Come on, let's go." Harry had barely closed the door on Myrtle's gurgling sobs when a loud voice made all three of them jump. "Ron!" Percy Weasley stopped dead at the head of the stairs, prefect badge agleam, an expression of complete shock on his face. "That's a girl's bathroom," he gasped. "What were you—" "Just having a look around," Ron shrugged. "Clues, you know." Percy swelled in a manner that reminded Harry forcefully of Mrs. Weasley. "Get away from there," Percy said, striding toward them and starting to bustle them along, flipping his arms. "Don't you care what this looks like, coming back here while everyone's at dinner?" "Why shouldn't we be here?" said Ron hotly, stopping short and glaring at Percy. "Listen, we never laid a finger on that cat." "That's what I told Ginny," said Percy fiercely, "but she still thinks you're going to be expelled. I've never seen her so upset, crying her eyes out. You might think of her. All the first years are thoroughly overexcited by this business." "You don't care about Ginny," said Ron, whose ears were now reddening. "You're just worried I'm going to mess up your chances of being head boy." "5 points from Gryffindor," Percy said tersely, fingering his prefect badge. "And I hope it teaches you a lesson. No more detective work, or I'll write Mum." He strode off, the back of his neck as red as Ron's ears. Harry, Ron, and Hermione chose seats as far as possible from Percy in the Commons Room that night. Ron was still in a very bad temper, and kept blotting his charms homework. When he reached absently for his wand to remove his smudges, it ignited his parchment. Fuming almost as much as his homework, Ron slammed the Standard Book of Spells, Grade 2, shut. To Harry's surprise, Hermione followed suit. "Who can it be, though?" she said in a quiet voice, as though continuing a conversation they had just been having. "Who'd want to frighten all the Squibs and Muggleborns out of Hogwarts?" "Let's think," Ron said in puzzlement. "Who do we know who thinks Muggleborns are scum?" He looked at Hermione. Hermione looked back, unconvinced. "If you're talking about Malfoy, of course I am," said Ron. "You heard him. You'll be next, mudbloods. Come on, you've only got to look at his foul rat face to know it's him." "Malfoy, the heir of Slytherin?" said Hermione skeptically. "Look at his family," said Ron, closing on his books too. "The whole lot of them have been in Slytherin. He's always boasting about it. They could easily be Slytherin's descendants. His father's definitely evil enough." "They could have had the key to the Chamber of Secrets for centuries," said Ron, "handing it down, father to son." "Well," said Hermione cautiously, "I suppose it's possible." "But how do we prove it?" said Harry darkly. "There might be a way," said Hermione slowly, dropping her voice still further with a quick glance across the room at Percy. "Of course, it would be difficult and dangerous, very dangerous. We'd be breaking about 50 school rules, I expect." "If in a month or so you feel like explaining, will you let us know, won't you?" "All right," said Hermione coldly. "What we need to do is to get inside the Slytherin common room and ask Malfoy a few questions without him realizing it's us." "But that's impossible," Harry said as Ron laughed. "No, it's not. All we would need is some Polyjuice Potion." "What's that?" said Harry and Ron together. "Snape mentioned it in class a few days ago." "Do you think we've got nothing better to do in potions than listen to Snape?" "It transforms you into somebody else. Think about it. We could change into 3 of the Slytherins. No one would know it was us. Malfoy would probably tell us anything. He'd probably be boasting about the Slytherin common room right now, if only we could hear him." "This Polyjuice stuff sounds a bit dodgy to me," said Ron. "What if we were stuck looking like 3 of the Slytherins forever?" "It wears off after a while," said Hermione, waving her wand impatiently. "But getting hold of the recipe will be very difficult. Snape said it was in a book called 'Most Potent Potions,' and it's bound to be in the restricted section of the library." There was only one way to get out a book from the restricted section. You needed a signed note of permission from the teacher. "Hard to see why we'd want the book, really," said Ron. if we weren't going to try and make one of the potions. I think, Hermione, that if we made it sound as though we were just interested in the theory, we might stand a chance." "Oh, come on. No teacher's going to fall for that," said Ron. "They'd have to be really thick." Who could be really thick, I wonder?